Hi, it's Dr. Daniel Fox, and I wanted to learn more about what people are interested in as far as like my channel and some things that I could provide to make the experience a little better for everybody. So what I did is I posted in the community of subscribers what can make it better, and someone responded and said, well, they'd like me to do a video on sort of immediate response to crises or when you are severely triggered. And I thought that's a really good idea. And I have some time before I go out today. So I thought, okay, so why don't I do sort of an immediate video? Usually I like to plan for the videos and stuff like that. But this one I'm just going to kind of do off the cuff. And I did, of course, I am a planner. I can't help it. So I planned a little bit. And so I posted on Twitter and I said, hey, what are some of your triggers? So maybe people could give me some ideas. Now, you guys know, if you've seen my videos, that I talk about triggers and emotional buttons. And that determines the degree of response. But what we're going to do today, I'm going to tell you about a really good strategy that can help you manage your cognitions as well as your behaviors and your emotions when you're triggered and you're in that situation of that immediate crisis. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about what that strategy is. Then I'm going to go to Twitter, and I've got 2 responses so far. If this is a success, then I'll keep posting on Twitter, and that would be kind of fun, be kind of interesting, mix things up a little bit. That's always fun. So let's talk about the coping strategy. Now, what this is, I use this with a lot of my clients, and when folks first start with me, I give them a nice laminated sheet. So if any of my clients are listening, you know what I'm talking about when I say the laminated sheet. Okay, so here is the laminated sheet. Now, the laminated sheet, which I will, obviously you can see this laminated here, but what I will do is I'll post it on the screen so you can see it as we talk through it, through each of these sections, okay? And you can print this off. I'll put a little link there. You can print this off, and perhaps you can then laminate it. You can go to Kinko's or anywhere and get it laminated, get a nice little laminate, thick laminate, and hang on to it. Keep it in your bedroom, you can keep it in your car, anywhere. And keep it so that you look at it often, and that'll help build the skill set, build that response tendency, which is what we want to do. So let's work through it. Okay, so we have a total of six steps in this sequence. Now, the first step is called triage. Now, this is, you have to ask yourself, so is this an imminently life-threatening situation? So what you want to do is you want to determine the degree of urgency, which is what is going on. Is this something that I could be physically hurt? Is this something that is life or death? Or is this something that is igniting some core content? Or is this something that is a trigger, which is a pet peeve? Now, triggers are pet peeves, right? We know emotional buttons hit more of that central content. We're going to talk more about that as we go through this sequence. And so in the triage, we ask ourselves, so is this life-threatening? Okay. Now from there, what we do, we're going to go to the next, and that is you want to manage your cortisol and your adrenaline. And here you're going to use relaxation techniques. You can use mindfulness, exercise, adaptive healthy coping, whatever works for you. Sometimes removing yourself from the stressful situation, of course, is good, but you've got to be careful. I think in this situation, pride sneaks in. Whew. Pride is tricky. Pride and cortisol and adrenaline, bad combo. Because what happens is, right, then our pride gets involved. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to stand for being treated like that. Those are those pride thoughts. That becomes really problematic. And we have to be careful. I'm not saying don't have self-respect. I'm not saying you shouldn't have pride. But I'm saying that there's an aspect of pride that is going to get you caught up. And I bet you know what I'm talking about. And so you have to assess what's your cortisol level. Your cortisol, if you've been triggered and you're in a triage situation and you're evaluating that situation, then we have to say, okay, so we know that I've been activated. Okay, whether it's trigger or emotional button. So it's been activated. So now my cortisol is up. My adrenaline is up. So what am I going to do about it? And that becomes really important. What are you going to do about it? So then we go to the next section, which is actually assessing your trigger or emotional button. Now here is the wound connected to a past hurt, bringing up emotions, or something that is irritating, like a pet peeve. This is huge. This is an important aspect to consider. Is this an emotional button? Is this bringing up issues of emptiness, abandonment, loneliness, withdrawal, a sense of brokenness, a sense of invisibility? Whatever your core content may be, and we know core content can have a lot of different components, that if it's igniting that core content, that is an emotional button. That is a deeper hit. So your cortisol is ignited even more. Your adrenaline is ignited even more. It tells your body and your brain that you are in a life-threatening situation, and that can be really, really tricky. Okay? So whereas opposed to a trigger is a pet peeve. But sometimes I think folks that are along that borderline spectrum, and even any personality disorder spectrum, or even those that have traits, I think that a lot of folks confuse trigger and emotional buttons. I think that as a field, in the mental health field, I don't think that we make this distinction, and it's so, so important. This is something that I teach to all of my clients. It's important to make that distinction. So is this a trigger or emotional button? That trigger is that pet peeve, right? Somebody cuts you off in traffic. You go to the grocery store and you want to get some particular type of eggs or milk or whatever it is, you want to get something, and they're out. That's a trigger. That's a pet peeve because it's frustrating, it's annoying, but it's not the same as an emotional button. And I think that really I think that those examples really drive that home. So is this a trigger or emotional button? Now the next step is, can you control it? Ask yourself, can you control the situation, the person, or the instance? And this is really, really important because now it becomes evaluative. Because can you control it? You can't control other people. It doesn't matter if they're your kid, if they're your significant other and you've been with them for 20 years, or if it's your best friend or your boss or a stranger in the grocery store. It doesn't matter. You can't control that other person. And we have to accept that too, which brings us to our next step, which is acceptance. Okay? And that is, right, can you accept your degree of control? Now, this is a hard one, is that we have to accept the fact that we cannot control others. We may want to, and that would be great if people would always do what we expect them to do when we want them to do it. But that isn't how the world works. And that's part of our sequence, is we have to accept the influence that we have. We have to accept the control that we may or may not have. And accept that the situation, that you may just have to accept it, that this is where you are. And lastly, it's a reassessment. And here we're going to evaluate your thinking, feeling, and perspective. So where are you now? How do you feel? How is that cortisol and adrenaline? How do you now see that triage where you were first ignited? Is it an emotional button? Is it a trigger, right? Can you control it? Have you gotten a degree of acceptance? And acceptance is tough, especially if that pride is still swimming in there, right? And then that reassessment. Usually when we go back to the reassessment, I do this with a lot of my clients, and we go back to that reassessment, they feel better. Even if it's a situation that they couldn't control, because they can always control themselves. And I know sometimes it feels like you can't, and there's just nothing you can do about it, but you can control yourself by learning the skills, by building those skills in yourself. So that's our sequence, right? Triage, manage cortisol and adrenaline, trigger or emotional button, asking yourself if you can control it, asking yourself, what is my degree of acceptance, and then a reassessment. Okay, so let's take a look at Twitter. I'll get it right. All right. So let's take a look at Twitter here. Let me just start up the iPad there. Okay. So Twitter. So I have two responses so far, and that's fine. So the first one now. I'm not going to say who it is, but this individual, this person says, and the question was, what are some of your triggers and what do you do when activated? Okay. Now this person responded that every GD step And breath reminds me that every word uttered is a lie. I was living a lie for a decade with a mock person, an empty shell. And above all that, rubbing new supply all over my face with passive-aggressive social media. And I think that this person really hits on a common trigger, which is we have friends and people in our life, and they post something on social media or they do something and it sets us off. So if we were to go through this sequence, okay, let's ask ourselves, so here's a situation, someone posted something on social media. Is this a life-threatening situation? No, it's not. Now, it's not saying it's not hurtful, but is it life-threatening? No. Okay. Is your cortisol and adrenaline activated? Absolutely. Okay. What about that trigger and emotional button? Now, which is it? Now, we don't know because I don't know this person. So is this, now it sounds like they were with this person for a while. They did something on social media that was disrespectful, that was inappropriate, passive aggressive. So it could have hit an emotional button, which makes it harder to manage, understandable. And we go, can you control it? Can you control what someone posts on social media? No, we can't. Now, we'd like to, right? Is that you can respond and you get into what they call, right, those Twitter wars and stuff. And it's going back and forth, back and forth. But can you control what someone posts and their passive-aggressive tendency or towards you, that passive-aggressive behavior, right? That passive-aggressive posts and things like that. Can you control it? You can't. It'd be nice if we could, but we can't. Can you accept that you can't control it? And that is where your power really lies, is accepting and understanding that you can't control. You have to accept that people in your life, and maybe you had a really, it sounded like this was a long-term passionate relationship and it didn't work out. And I think that, do we have to accept that you can't control it, that you did learn that this person is not someone you want in your life and it's hurtful, and it sounds like that this may not be the first time that this has happened. I don't know. I don't want to overgeneralize or extrapolate on someone I don't know, of course. But we talk about accepting it. Okay, so can you accept that and then reassess it as you walk through this sequence? All right, when you reassess it, does it give you another perspective? Does it give you the option to look at that situation and say, you know what, I can't control it. I have to accept that this is who it is and let it go. Sometimes the hardest thing is to just be above it and let it go. And I understand that that's the hardest sometimes for me. It's hard for a lot of my clients, and I bet it's hard for you too, who is watching this as well. Okay? And now there's one more, and let's use this as another example as well. Now, when people cancel plans with me, or I ask them to hang out and they say no, I don't completely stonewall, but I like halfway stonewall until I have a good chance to bring it up, or if they show they care in one way or another. Now, I think that this person is using some strategies here. I think that this person, right, if we put it into our context of our coping steps here, you see that that triage, I think this person is aware this is not life-threatening, it's hurtful, and it sounds like, that these situations, hurt this person's feelings, and certainly understandable. Then, what's the degree of activation with managing cortisol and adrenaline? And I think if you look at that, it probably jumps up a little bit, but this person's maintaining their self-control. They're managing themselves well. At least it sounds that way. They're not being impulsive. They're not being aggressive. If they're sort of maintaining. And then when you talk about trigger or emotional button, now I don't know what this is because I don't know this person. But is it a trigger or emotional button? My guess is, again, I think we're going to go to an emotional button hit here, which is hitting this person's core content. But if they have strategies, sound like they do because they have patience, they can wait, they sort of sit back a little bit. Well, let's see how it plays out. How is he or she going to behave? How are they going to treat me? Are they going to do something to maybe say, all right, you know what, maybe I jumped the gun. Again, I don't know, we're extrapolating. Can you control it? They can't control that other person and what they did, but they can control themselves. And this person's choice is to wait, which is they're accepting the fact that you can't control this other person. You're accepting the situation and you're reassessing and saying, okay, well, what is going to happen? Because this person waits until they have an opportunity to bring it up again, or if they show they care in one way or another. And that could be generalized, depends on what that is, and hopefully that could be defined. We don't know, because I don't know this person. But again, it's sort of reassessing that. And I think that these two are really good examples. If you guys like the Twitter aspect, please let me know. I could do Facebook, post some questions on Facebook too, and add that into the video to add a little more realism to it. Please try this coping strategy. I think you'll find it of great benefit. I'll put it up again here and put a link so you can print it. Please try it, use it, let us know in the comments how that's going. And thank you all very much. I know I'm dressed a little differently, a little casual, because this was kind of a last minute thing. Wasn't planned out, so go with me. I hope you like it, and if you like this style, which is a little different, I think, let me know. So thanks a lot, and if you like the channel, subscribe, and if you like me, subscribe, leave positive comments. I'm trying to create a positive community, and thanks a lot, and take care. Bye-bye.